Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel and the World Class Championship Wrestling review series. And we are in the summer, or beginning the summer of 1982. This is the June 5th edition of 1982. If you're new here, please like, subscribe, comment below. We cover both the old school and new school versions of pro wrestling, current day and earliest stuff available, 70s and 80s, 90s, and the like. Our goal is to be the largest audio archive of review series and interviews of old school talents, while still covering today's stuff, which I much prefer this over that. But anyway, so we open the program with Kim Duck addressing Great Kabuki and Dragon. He has insulted that the international stars, the Asian stars of wrestling, are lumped together. He is unimpressed by the actions of H&H Hart and Hussein Limited. He is looking to defend the honor of international stars or Asian stars everywhere. And that is the basis of that promo. Odd because he's portrayed in WWF a few years later as being unable to speak, and he speaks relatively clearly here. Better English than I remember, so maybe his, lack of American upbringing is worked. I don't really know, but anyway, I found that odd. But anyway, we move into the first match of the evening, Tom Shaft against Bill Irwin. Irwin, of course, a long-term Texas champion. Shaft, again, and I say this almost with every review, but every time I see him, I think, yes, he might have been missing something, maybe a little charisma-wise or something, but he could have been so much more. He was a good physical specimen. He was good and safe in the ring. He could have easily been a star of higher caliber. This match, relatively a brawl. He's doing a lot of punching and kicking. I mean, he wasn't an artist as far as placement of moves or anything like that. He takes the first several minutes of the match with offense. Irwin hits a top rope splash for a very close near fall. He's shocked by it, and actually does get the fall at the end of the day. But if you go back and watch the video, Shaft looks like he's kicked out of the finish. So for those that kind of like the moments of, did that really just happen? You might enjoy that particular version of the match and that. So we go to Kim Duck, who we heard from earlier against or tagging with Ken Mantell versus Kabuki and Dragon. It is a very basic match. I'm not sure I understand Ken Mantell's appeal. I know he was a booker later, and that's the majority of what I know him from. I've yet to see him in a match that's can't miss, so scratching my head as far as why he was given such a push here. Perhaps he was booking at the time. Perhaps, I believe it was Gary Hart that was booking at the time, but perhaps maybe they were thinking of moving him into a higher position of authority. I don't know. But this match is slow by even 1982 standards. Kabuki and Duck square off quite a bit. Kabuki coming out the better with strikes and the like. The match, again, is very slow, back and forth. Gary Hart on the outside is fun as always. There's just a lot of, especially during the first 4 or 5 minutes of the match, a lot of stare-down type stuff where guys will just stand there and look at each other. A lot of psychology-based things, which there's nothing wrong with per se. Oddly, Magic Dragon, who usually wears a black mask, is wearing a grayish mask here, or a different mask than normal. It's a different shade. He's normally wearing black. This is more medium gray. So interesting there. He goes for his rolling choke finish. That gets broken up. Magic Dragon later, I believe, becomes a secondary person. I remember seeing him in the mid to late 80s, and having that be a bigger deal than not. Um, at least that's what I recall. Um, Suffice to say, um, we see the rope walk chop from Kabuki. Somehow I've yet to figure out, both Bugsy McGraw and Kabuki do this thing where they're in the middle of a match and they start spinning around like they're on a merry-go-round or trying to make themselves dizzy or something. I I don't understand where this came from, so I'd actually be interested to know if there's guys that did it from the 60s and 70s or something, or whether it's something they invented, or whether it's just something peculiar to Texas. It's a really minute thing, so probably no one knows, but it strikes me as odd when I see it. I understand it with Bugsy because Bugsy's crazy. Eugene did it later at a later point, but that's there. Post match, we see chaos erupt with Hart's men really bringing around a lot of issues. Use of the kendo stick that was brought by Kim Duck by the heels. This leads to the Spoiler making his way out. Spoiler is a babyface in the area whom doesn't really have a real definition, for lack of a better term, of of where he's going, what he's doing. For a while, he's in tag matches. For a while, you know, he's just kind of all over the place. And then you see him running here, which strikes me as a bit of a waste. He was a super talented guy, and to think they couldn't find a consistent role for him just strikes me as odd and a bit wasteful. Anyway, Tiger Chung Lee uses the um, reverse reverse leg choke there. Referees basically lose control of the match a bit, and I don't remember there being an official decision. I do remember the referees trying to ultimately get the um, get the heels off the baby faces in a pretty consistent manner, as it doesn't seem to end well for them. And so, match is relatively indecisive, match is relatively um, unfocused, at least to a degree, and it is what it is as far as that's concerned. Then we move into a match or an interview, I'm sorry, with Jose Lothario. Lothario talks about being the brass knucks champion, the Mexican brass knucks champion, talks about being willing to fight anybody. Bill Irwin challenges that and basically says that Lothario barely defends his championship while he's out there defending his all the time. So obviously they kind of set up a eventual match between the two of them. Jose Lothario is a guy that I don't get the appeal of. I understand that in Texas he is a Latin star. I understand that he was around for several years, but he doesn't strike me as a guy who, unless you're of that ethnic background and unless you want a hero who looks and is like you, I don't see his in-ring appeal. I don't see where it's like I can't miss a Jose Lothario match. That being said, he did train Shawn Michaels, so that he helped to give one of the greatest wrestlers of certainly the last 30 years to us. Maybe some would say in the top 10. Not here for that debate. Anyway, very basic punch kick type match. Hammerlock and Lothario wrestles Dusek, his opponent, Dusek Captain Dusek to the mat. Dusek breaks the hold by going to the outside quite a bit. Again, slower match. I do like one thing about Lothario to kind of balance this out as a positive and negative sort of thing. He's deliberate with his lockups, and I know that unless you're a wrestler, that won't really matter too much. But for the benefit of those who are in starting out as independent people, um, it's valuable to say he is in fact a guy who, the small things matter. His fighting on the outside, he's constantly pulling in a guy to keep him in the, keep him from getting back in the ring. There's just a lot of deliberate nature to that process, and for as much as he's very punch kick, he reminds me a lot of like a Bruno Sammartino in that there are people that love Bruno. I've never seen a match in entirety of Bruno's that I greatly enjoyed, although I do understand his appeal to the audience at the time. I get it, but it's just not something that I'm, a major fan of. They end up squaring off with weapons. The referee, I believe, eventually goes in the direction of calling the match a double count out or disqualification, but there is no decisive finish to this particular contest. We then move to our main event, King Kong Bundy versus Kevin Von Erich. Interesting that the Von Erichs are reasonably interchangeable. 1 week it's Kerry, 1 week it's Kevin. I believe, let me just check this, but I believe this is the first time, yep, it is the first time, at least in this iteration of World Class, that we see Kevin wearing the lack of shoes. That's something that's pretty major for Kevin, as every time I had seen him before doing this review series, he was not wearing shoes. So when I saw him wearing shoes, I was actually caught off guard. Anyway, very basic match. I will say Kevin shows amazing fire. A lot of shoulder tackles, some drop kicks, and the like. Bundy again does a little more selling than is necessary. However, it's less selling than he normally does. They're protecting him a little bit better going into the match with Fritz. Also, it is worth noting that the match with Fritz is upcoming, and yet Bundy is looking competitive with his sons in a way where you would think, to maximize ticket sales at Texas Stadium, you'd want Bundy looking like a world-beating monster who's unbeatable. Several drop kicks by Kevin, and Bundy has some difficulty in keeping the offense going his way. There is a good bit of back and forth here. They brawl on the outside, which in the Sportatorium, they don't have a bunch of room out there, but they do brawl on the outside. Bundy, both in storyline and in, just life in general, seems to be having a good time in there. There are several strikes by Kevin towards the end of the match that, is a battle, so Bundy is at least made to look stronger than normal. Bundy uses the ring well here, just everything. The battle over the claw is present, and we ultimately see Bundy getting defeated here, which is just really surprising. In so much as, here's a guy who's ostensibly 400 plus pounds, who's a major star, and he's pulling a guy up off the canvas, and kind of, he could have beaten him after the big splash that he hit. I actually would have had King Kong Bundy beat him here. That to me makes more sense, but it's a little difficult. But instead, we see Kevin rolling or getting out of the way of a splash in the corner, hits a diving cross body, and getting what has to be at the time is considered at least a minor upset. Bundy continues to beat him down as we close the show, and we're into June and rocking and rolling here in World Class. Until next time, I encourage you to keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.